You are listening to Leading the Factory Forward with your host, Lynn Friest. We share interviews with manufacturing experts and strategies for embracing the digital future, recruiting a new workforce, finding new business. Lynn is an advanced manufacturing strategist and leadership consultant who is on a mission to show manufacturing leaders how to improve their current operations while preparing for a digital future. And here's your host, Lynn Friest.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the podcast. This episode is number 98, and it's a review of the book Your Message Matters by Jonathan Milligan. My goal is to help you create a compelling future for yourself in an encore career, or as I like to say, as a silver entrepreneur. I will also share ideas on how companies connect with the talent that you could provide for them. I encourage you to visit my website and download the summary at the bottom of the podcast episode, so you can use that as a tool to capture notes as you explore the ideas in this episode. This episode is about a new book by Jonathan Milligan. It's titled Your Message Matters. I've known and worked with Jonathan for several years, and I've relied on his knowledge and wisdom to help shape my Encore career. This book is a great start on crafting your Encore career. And if you want to engage more with Jonathan's work, he also has a tremendous breadth and depth of knowledge and training to help people with implementing what he shares in the book. So here are the 4 sections of Jonathan's book. The first part is Believe Your Message. The second one is Define Your Message. The third one is Market Your Message. And the fourth one is Live Your Message. And then in addition, he actually provides a 1-page quick start messenger roadmap for you. So part 1, Believe Your Message. He starts out by saying, what exactly is a messenger? Tends to say they're people who are creative, transformational, learner, future-focused. In other words, people who have a passion with something to say to others and to help others. Next, it talks about why does your message matter? Your gift is something that people need to hear from you. And just as an exercise, for 5 minutes, write about questions of what do I want to do to help people? What's the problem I want to help people solve? Just think about whatever comes to mind. But that's where you start getting this essence of why your message matters. Then we move on to a chapter called The Secret to Building a Business and Life You Love. And he says you really have to commit to the work. And he says you should really be measuring actions, not results. And this is the idea that you may not have immediate success, but if you are persistent and keep sharing your message, 1, you'll find your audience, and 2, you'll get even better at describing what it is you're trying to help them with. And then another reason, why should you build a business? Sharing your advice. Again, this goes back to my fundamental things on the Encore Career is you can work where you want, when you want, and at the pace you want. So this is the perfect way for you to have your life as well as help others. Then the last part of it, Jonathan talks about the Messenger Manifesto. And he has his own, and I'll just share it with you for inspiration. Jonathan says, as I begin my day, I will choose to work from a place of mission and not fear. Service and not greed, humility and not pride. I choose today to offer hope to the discouraged, purpose to the doubting, and direction to the confused. May this be my vision as I work today to build the business. So again, I think that's inspiring. You can come up with your own words, but literally Jonathan repeats this to himself every day as he starts his day to keep him engaged in what's the big why that I'm doing this for. The second part of the book is around Define Your Message. And he gets into things like Ignite Your Message Framework. He says there are 3 elements in having a message framework. There's a passion, a purpose, and people. So the other is the purpose. What is your unique gift? And he says there are several areas you can look at. You could be a writer, you could be a speaker, a teacher, or a coach. And again, it's not that you can't be all of these, but I think you'll find, given your career and stuff like that, there's one or more of these that you're more comfortable about, or it's a good place to start. Again, you can be all of these things, but maybe start with where you've either had success or you're most comfortable with. Then he says you got to focus on the people. Who do you want to help? Who would you love to work with? Who needs your help? As you think back on your career, what are the kinds of people that have asked you for help? Another question that I work with on this is, who would you love to work with? What's your ideal person? Somebody you've worked in the past might be an example. Then it gets to the passion. What problem will you solve? And this gets around to one of the ways that he talks about it is, What could you work on for the next 10 years? Is a big enough problem would engage you for a long period of time? It could also be, where do you see a burning need, or where have you in your career seen where people need the most help, or maybe the first help, and maybe there's a journey you'll take them on. So all of these things is you have to think about what's your reason for being and doing this. And if it's truly to serve people, I think they'll help a lot. Then Jonathan talks about mission control, establishing your home base. And it's this whole idea of probably need to have either a website or a podcast or something like that where you can speak from. It's your stage, as it might be. Now, you may share things on social media. You may share things literally speaking from stage, or writing on a blog, or sharing papers, or teaching classes. All of these things could be where you, quote, speak from. But you do have to find a place you feel comfortable that this is the home base. As you talk to people, you can refer them back there to find out more about you, those kinds of things. In the end, what you want to do is you want to be known for something to somebody. And then the other key thing is, do you have a success path that you'll take people through? I have, in my work I just did with my webinar, I shared about 4 steps. Jonathan has 4 broad steps that he shows in his book. So think about whatever the problem you're trying to solve, it probably has several steps. Think about what those might be. Then part 3 of the book is market your message. And this is the idea, as he says, extraordinary focus leads to success. You can easily get overwhelmed by all the things you could be doing, all the technology you could be doing, all kinds of things that could happen, and then all the new things that show up for you. Since you're a company of one, you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything. So he says success is sequential, not simultaneous. So that you need to come back and say, okay, what's the next best step that we should take right now? Could it be launch a website? It could be learning how to speak from the stage. Whatever it may be, focus on one thing for a fixed period of time and get good at it. Then he talks about the 4 steps in marketing your message. 1 is create. You have to get your message out to people and let them know what it is you're trying to share with them. And you have to give value first. Sometimes people say, how am I going to get paid for this? You can get paid if you give value. It's one of those things that once you've told enough people, and a lot of very successful people say, I speak for free, but I get so many people coming back to ask me for follow-up help. The fact that I didn't get paid for a speech is not a problem. The same thing would be true with a podcast or a blog. First, you give value to people, then they're going to come back and they're going to want more help from you. Then capture. And this has to do with, as Jonathan puts it, the artful exchange of value for an email address. You need to be able to reconnect with people as you move forward. And it could be some of these people, they loved hearing from you, so they would love to be on your email list and maybe hear something every month or every other week or whatever it may be. And it could be right now they don't need your services, but a month or 2 months from now, as they are reconnected with you, with whether it be a newsletter or whatever it may be, then that's when they'll need you. And they'll remember, you're the one that I need to go back and talk to. And again, in the end, this whole piece is you're opening a relationship. My friend Mike Kinham has always said, sales is really about opening a relationship, not closing the sale. And that's what you're trying to do with all these things, is try to open a relationship with people. Then the next step Jonathan talks about is compile. And here he says, really, you need to package your knowledge into products and services. That roadmap of what you're going to take people through. You need to be able to articulate that. You may have short courses that you do. You may do group coaching. You may have a series of YouTube videos that you're going to sell to people. I think it really helps, and you may write a book. And I'll say one of those things is interesting. While I've not written a book myself, I've gone through some of the process of doing that, and it really helped me clarify what it is I wanted to tell people. So even though I didn't in the end write the book, just going through a process of compiling the stuff that I might put in a book really helped me clarify what it is I want to share and how I want to help people. And then the final piece is, again, this connect. How do you attract your audience to your message? And you have to think of this as a journey, as I've said in other pieces here. And that journey is, are you providing value? People see the value. It's probably free, but they see value. If they see consistent value from you, then it builds on to trust. So then, okay, I think you're a knowledgeable source of this kind of information or knowledge. And that leads to attention. That means that you're, if not top of mind, at least you're in their sphere of awareness. So when it comes time, then they need some help, then that's when it finally turns into profit. You can help them, provide services to them, and get paid for it. Now, as we get to part 4, this is where Jonathan talks about living your message. Again, this gets back to your big why. And he's got 3 different things he says that he's trying to do. The first is encouraging hearts. He wants to move people from discouragement to hope. The second one is educating heads. In this case, he says, moving people from doubt to confidence. And the final one is empowering hands, moving people from delay to action. So this is one of those things where I think Jonathan's work really rings with me, because that whole idea of we're there to help people move from discouragement, what's not possible, to hope. Again, whatever the issue, the problem is you want to solve, help people solve. And then educating. People say, I can't move forward on this problem. I don't know how. You move them from doubt to confidence. And then finally, empowering hands. Again, moving people from delay or stuck to action. I think in anybody's process of help, you can't just give them information. You have to actually support them in taking action on that. So in the final part of it, then Jonathan has this, as I said, the 1-page game plan for success. And it's just a start, but it gives you, I think, the first steps in clarifying what you might do to help others. He's got his manifesto that he starts with every day. As you think back, or if you get the book, it'll be in there. That gives him that big why, the reason why he goes through this effort every day. But then the earlier things we talked about, connect. Which traffic source will you use? Then it'll be create. What kind of content will you create? How will you share your message with your audience? Capture. How will you connect with your audience? How are you going to get email addresses? How are you going to connect through a podcast or speaking or blogging? How are you going to connect with your audience? And then finally, capture. In other words, how do you keep all this organized? How do you keep working ahead on these things? And then compile. What will you sell to help your audience? Compile things and make sure that you've got a great success path for your audience to follow. So that wraps up this session of the podcast. Again, I thank Jonathan for all the help he's given me over the years, and I really appreciate his book, and I appreciate all the time I still continue to work with him on a continual basis. So here are some of the steps we covered in this episode from Jonathan's book, Your Message Matters. Believe your message, define your message, market your message, and live your message. So with that, I refer you to resources in the show notes, and at least at the moment here, you can get a copy of Jonathan's book for free just by paying for shipping and handling. And there'll be a link to his website where you can find out how to acquire that book. And I encourage you to pick up a copy of it. And as always, I encourage you to visit my website and download the summary at the bottom of the podcast episode as you start exploring the ideas that we shared with you. And also, there'll be a link there for the replay of my recent webinar, 4 questions that will improve your Encore Career selection. So you also can look for that. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.